Hello, I'm Susan Cadeau. Thank you for being with us. 8 weeks into the legislative special session, lawmakers finally reached an agreement on a bill to rebalance the state budget. While the agreement fills the $215 million hole left when the Supreme Court struck down a cigarette fee passed last session, virtually no one in state government calls it a cause for celebration.
When the House last week considered a bill that would have provided new recurring revenue by increasing cigarette and motor fuels taxes and doubling the gross production tax on oil and gas, lawmakers called it the last chance to avoid devastating cuts to Oklahoma's health care agencies. The failure of that bill to reach the 76 votes required for new revenue measures left lawmakers with what's been dubbed a cash and cuts approach. House Bill 1019 fills the state's budget hole through a combination of $60 million in revolving funds and about $50 million in carryover money from the previous fiscal year. There's also $48 million in new revenue raised by increasing the gross production tax rate on legacy wells from 4 to 7%. The rest of the shortfall will have to be made up through cuts averaging more than 2.4% to state agencies. House Appropriations and Budget Chair Kevin Wallace said it's not the bill anyone wanted.
But the fact we're here today and we have to vote this bill up to prevent the cliff we're coming up to for health care of cutting them $214 million in just a few weeks.
Democrats in the House claim leaders in the majority party never intended for earlier revenue bills to pass. During a lengthy question and answer session on the bill, Democratic Representative Matt Meredith accused Republican leadership of intentionally sabotaging efforts to increase taxes and create recurring revenue for the state.
The vote last week was orchestrated to fail, and that this was actually what you all wanted the whole time.
If somebody admitted they orchestrated a failure of a budget, you need to take that up with them. I can tell you, I and the other leadership that I'm working with every day, we put every ounce of energy we had into doing what we thought was the best thing for the state.
House Majority Floor Leader John Echols maintained he had voted yes on every revenue measure that was brought up in the House. He also accused Democrats of hypocrisy, saying that prior to last week's vote, Democrats had failed to support a standalone cigarette tax or other measures that would have brought in additional revenue because of their insistence that gross production tax rates needed to be increased.
I don't have the benefit that some in the minority party have to have voted against almost every revenue measure and then to go against cuts.
House Bill 1019 does hold some agencies' budgets flat, including Common Education and the Department of Corrections, but slashes more than 4 dozen others, including the Regents for Higher Education, which is facing a $17.3 million cut. Representative Cindy Munson called that an especially hard decision.
Members, on Monday, I spoke to an honor society of 7th and 8th grade students in my district, and I told them to stay focused on their education and to pursue a college degree. And now, in the same week, today, I'm being asked to vote on a budget with a $17 million cut to higher education.
Representative Corey Williams said those kinds of reductions will continue to hurt the state when it comes to recruiting new business to Oklahoma.
How in the world are we going to tell the Amazons of the world or other companies of the world to come here and invest when we won't even invest in ourselves?
Representative Colin Walkie argued that by raiding one-time sources of revenue, the bill would actually make next year's budget hole worse.
This budget that we're about to pass is going to leave the state of Oklahoma in an $800 million hole next year during an election year. And if you thought it was tough trying to get something done today during a special session, good luck trying to get revenue increased during the regular session in an election year.
Governor Mary Fallin told reporters she was disappointed the structural problems with the budget were not addressed and expressed concern about the impact on next year's budget.
Because we've left a one-time budget hole of about $400 million from last year and then about $150 million or so from this year because of using one-time funds. We will come back in a couple of months at the beginning of the legislative session with another budget hole.
While the governor had threatened to veto any budget that contained draconian cuts to state agencies, She declined to say whether this budget fit that criteria.
2.4% is certainly not what I prefer they do, but that is a small amount. But I wish we could have held everybody harmless.
In a statement released late Wednesday, the governor said, "I have told our legislative leaders that I would veto any bill that makes severe cuts of $90 million or more to state agencies and spends the $83 million in cash reserves. When a budget bill comes to my desk, I will need to review any additions or changes to what has previously been discussed with our leaders."